let's get right into this review for Bugonia. Alright, so this film is directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who also worked on other notable films like Poor Things and Kinds of Kindness during the past 2 to 3 years or so. The film stars familiar faces like Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons, who seem to be recurring actors for his films. And right off the bat, I'm all for this dynamic trio continuing their cinematic journey. There's a lot of chemistry and a special bond I feel between the cast members involved, as many of them have worked closely together in several film projects now. So it goes without saying that the entire cast absolutely nailed their roles here, and I was delighted with their performances involved. And now that I've seen this film in its entirety, what did I think about this cinematic package? For the most part, I honestly had a good time with the story execution here. So let's go over some of the positives first. Again, the casting was phenomenal. Jesse Plemons was the highlight for me this time around. He crushed his character presentation, and I remained ever so curious to see his next action in the story until the very end. Also, the cinematography was great here, and all the set locations paired well for this screenplay being told. It was a delight to look at on the big screen at the theaters, each step of the way throughout the acts. I also found the general themes surrounding conspiracy theories, truths, and false truths to be effectively told within the story beats through the provided dialogues and visuals. And undoubtedly, this is a film that provides an original cinematic experience, Yorgos Lanthimos style, with a touch of dark comedy sprinkled throughout. So if you're already a fan of his vision for storytelling, there's very little he gets wrong within this highly original story execution, which is filled to the brim with bold artistic choices. Now, to go over some of the negatives I found the story to be dragged out at different points within each act, with it being most noticeable in Act 2. The premise remains somewhat on the thin side for the majority of the 2-hour runtime, and I never found the characters or the plot points to evolve in a way that justified this dragged out drama by the end. Don't get me wrong, I was thoroughly invested in the majority of the acts during my viewing, but looking back at the story post-screening, I found that it didn't necessarily have to be that long to get to the end point of this story. That brings me to my other negative, the ending. There's a fun plot twist that occurs by the end, which played like a double-edged sword for me, so I ended up feeling a bit more neutral about the entire experience. I will say that the conclusion to this story drilled some pretty big plot holes to the prior acts and left me questioning some of the previous character actions within the film. Especially with the ending we get, I just couldn't fully fathom why some moments in the general story played out the way it did. This brings me to my final negative point, that this entire story had so many B or C tier elements to it, which may or may not click with you as the story progresses. My final score for Bugonia is 7.5 out of 10. This was a really solid one-time watch cinematic experience for me. I was still enticed during my viewing, and there are still some golden moments to be enjoyed here in this screenplay. Excited to see more films from Yorgos in the future, as these are some incredibly original films I get to witness from him. Anyway, since we're checking this review out, I'll have another one coming out this week, so stay tuned for that, and I shall see you on my other uploads. Until then, stay safe out there, and peace.